Hello and welcome. You're watching this NDTV special report from Israel, where we've been covering raging conflict in Gaza, and where our report team assembled and fired a rocket from a civilian neighborhood in Gaza has provoked reactions from around the world. The world press has picked it up and carried it from newspapers to online. But at the same time, and this is somewhat of a matter of concern to journalists like us who are trying to report this highly polarized story, it's also got picked up by both propaganda machines, if you will, with each trying to use it to discredit the other. Now, the Israel side, or those who sympathize with Israel, say that, look, this is proof of something we've been saying all along, that Hamas uses these civilian areas to fire their rockets. But those who are sympathetic to the Palestinian cause feel that this is a specious argument that still doesn't condone civilian killings, and they believe that this report undermines their argument. So we'll get into a discussion with that, with some people we have here with us in Jerusalem. But before that, let's first play you that video for those who may have missed it. This is a shorter version of the video that we shot. This was a day ago that we shot it, watching a Hamas module set up a rocket near the hotel room we were in the Gaza Strip. So watch the video and then we'll debate it shortly afterwards.
Okay, so we're witnessing something very, very unusual in this plot of land, abandoned plot of land right next to our hotel. A blue tent has come up. It wasn't there last night. It came up just this morning, and there have been two men moving in and out of it. Now, by reasonable doubt, it's fair to guess that this is a potential Hamas rocket launching site that's being set up. There's always been this question of how Hamas manages to fire its rockets without being detected by the Israelis. This perhaps is one of the ways of assembling it under a tent. It also establishes something which Hamas has always been accused of, that they actually use densely populated civilian areas to fire their rockets. And if the camera zooms out a little more, you'll see that this is an area very heavily built up, a lot of residential and hotel buildings all around. So now, as you can see, the tent has been removed. Whatever they were doing under the tent is clearly over. We also find that there are not two individuals, but three who are behind this particular activity, and they've placed a sort of a bush on top of whatever they've buried under the sand, and also they're using a spade to cover it up with mud, and it looks like they're prepared to leave. But of course, during this whole process, they were running some cables out from under the tent to somewhere at the back, and it now remains to be seen whether, if this is indeed a Hamas rocket launch site, that they're going to use it to detonate it remotely. We can see one of the men leaving. He's got something on his head. He just looks like he's coming out either onto the road or he's gone behind the tree there. The other guy is standing behind the tree. Again, as I said, this is a very, very unusual sight to actually witness in Gaza. The possibility that we're seeing Hamas setting up for a rocket launch just meters away from our hotel, and again, as I point out, bang in the middle of what is a residential area full of hotels and apartment buildings.
So that's the rocket being fired today morning, a day after it was assembled at the exact spot the rocket has been fired. That's the smoke. We just shot a video of it in the immediate aftermath.
Okay, so we're heading to the spot where we saw the rocket from being fired. It seems to be in an open plot of land, but we're being asked by people not to go to the location. So we're just pulling back. Okay, so we're not actually going in there because it's been rightly pointed out to us that there could be an immediate Israeli retaliation to the rocket that was fired from here. But as we've reported, or as we managed to capture on camera earlier, we actually saw that particular rocket silo being placed. But you can see very clearly this is a very, very dense residential and commercial area, and therefore firing the rocket from here will obviously have serious consequences for those who live here should Israel choose to retaliate. In Gaza, with camera person Sanjay Mandal and Neha Masi, Sreenivasan Jain for NDTV. So that report went on air, and as I said, it sparked very strong reactions from both sides, with those who are sympathizers of Israel, the Israel military itself retweeting the link to that video. But equally, as I said, it evoked dismay from those who are sympathetic to the Palestinian cause, saying that by airing that report, we had sold out, that we were acting on the basis of an agenda. This is, of course, somewhat ironic, given that we had just 4 days ago aired a report from Rafah in South Gaza, and we're just putting those pictures up on the screen for you, where we showed unflinching images of the carnage that was wreaked by what we found clearly a heavy-handed offensive by the Israeli military. Those are some very young children. One is 2.5 years old. The other is an infant. She's barely 4 months old. He's lost, the child, the 2.5-year-old child has lost his leg. The infant has lost her parents. There are many, many more such images in Rafah, which is one of those areas which very few of the media could get to because of the intensity of the war. But I guess that's one of the dangers of reporting a story which provokes such strong reactions, and which is also linked in a way to a fog of propaganda. I'm joined to debate this here on the rooftop of where we are in Jerusalem by Eitan Bachman, who's the spokesperson for the Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF. Thanks very much for being here. Also, Alan Sorensen of the Berlingske, which is a leading newspaper in Denmark. He's a Gaza veteran. He was there at the same time as us. And I'm also joined on the phone line by Mr. Mohammad Ishtaye, who's a Central Committee member of the Palestinian leadership, a very senior voice in the ongoing negotiations to try and bring some kind of peace. Now, Eitan, if I can just ask you, I know that the IDF put our video on your site, and you were telling me you got a lot of response, but I'm not clear how this video exactly serves your cause, because it still doesn't let you off the hook as far as civilian deaths are concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that at the end of the day, the point that your footage, amazing footage really, drove home is that Hamas is choosing where this battle takes place. The IDF would like nothing more than to be able to target Hamas sites in fields around Gaza. At the end of the day, Hamas has made a deliberate, a systematic choice to place their weapons inside of mosques, next to journalist hotels, next to the residents, and drawing the war towards them.
And are you saying that therefore you have no choice but to attack these locations and cause heavy civilian tolls? I mean, the IDF claims to be such a sophisticated military force. You're saying you have no other way to fight this war other than kill civilians.
Well, the rockets landing in Israel have gone back since 2001. That's before the first iPod was even produced. It's been going on for ages now.
Right.
Over 3,300 rockets fired from the area. We have a right, we have an obligation to protect our civilians. At the same time, we have nothing against the residents of Gaza. We do everything that we possibly could in order to protect them. We do things that...
It's not working though, is it? I mean, when you say you do everything you can, this is the standard IDF line. But on the ground, it's not working. I mean, if you have 1,800 dead, of which 70% are civilians, clearly something's not working.
We believe right now that at least 900 of those casualties were militants. I think that's another part of the Hamas propaganda, which is trying to get across a party line of who's really the casualty, whether it's civilians or whether it's actual militants. We think it's, given the context, given the situation that Hamas has pulled its own residents into, we think that we've done a very good job. I think we've done more than most militaries have ever done in the world.
That's an extraordinary thing to say. I don't know how many people would agree with that. Alan, do you agree with this at all? I mean, you've been to Gaza now, I don't know how many times. This recent war has been the most brutal yet. And the Hamas video, the video that we aired, again, to me, this is why I'm so disturbed by the reactions it's drawn, that it shouldn't become part of propaganda of the Israeli military to say, look, this condones what we've been doing.
Well, from my experience, I know that everything tweeted or everything written will obviously end up, especially when it's as controversial as your video is and exclusive, it will be used by either part. And that's my experience as well. When talking about the war, I think it's important to say that in my opinion, the force used by Israel that has caused civilian casualties in the hundreds and almost 2,000 casualties all in all, fighters included.
Right.
I think maybe somehow it's not working, because the Israeli IDF and the government says that the aim is, of course, to put pressure on Hamas. But Hamas, in this case, doesn't seem to care. It loses its men, but it doesn't seem to care. And I think this also connects to your video that should there be civilian casualties? Should journalists be hit?
Yes.
Well, we can live with it.
Yes, that's actually worrying. But the whole idea of a video was to really put the responsibility on both combatants to say, look, both of you now need to be more careful to ensure that civilians aren't caught in the crossfire. It really wasn't about taking sides. But let me just bring Mr. Mohammad Ishtai into this. Mr. Ishtai, I don't know if you've had a chance to see our report about what we felt or what we saw was a Hamas team assembling a rocket near the hotel where we were staying. But do you believe that those of you who are a part of the attempt to try and bring some kind of negotiation process into all of this, as much as you criticize Israel for its what you call dubious military practices, the same should also be said to Hamas, that they must now take this battle away from civilian areas?
Well, look, first of all, the whole of Gaza is a civilian area. The whole of Gaza is 370 square kilometers. That is accommodating 1.9 million Palestinians, the most densely part of the world. So wherever you go in Gaza, it is crowded. One. Secondly, I am astonished by, I don't know who the Israeli speaker at your end, I don't see him, but I am astonished for him to say that he did a good job. Actually, his army did a criminal job, not a good job. And also, to say that we did nothing against the people of Gaza. You see, the people of Gaza have been under siege for 8 years, and Israel is employing collective punishment on our people for the last 8 years. And
okay, sir, I'll come to the siege.
I think
Mr. Ishtai, I don't mean to... Sir, can I just come in 1 second? Can I just come in 1 second there before we go into too many different points? Yes, sir. No, because I want to take you on your first point, which is when you said that, yes, I just want to ask you, when you say that all of Gaza is densely populated, there are no open areas, the fact is that, we have driven down from north to south Gaza, and there are open spaces which are available should Hamas choose to use them. Isn't it really about both sides not blaming the other, but taking individual responsibility to say, look, at least on our side, we will stop taking action that makes civilians vulnerable?
Well, look, if a hijacker takes a bus and the bus has 50 passengers, do you really kill all the passengers to reach him?
Yes.
Or you try to solve the problem in a totally different way? All these measures that Israel is taking against our people in Gaza does not help to solve the security of the state of Israel. Israel knows very well that the biggest problem and the main problem here is the Israeli occupation to the Palestinian territory and the siege on Gaza. If Israel wants to live in harmony and in peace, it has to end its occupation to the people. Let's not deal with the symptoms. This is only cosmetic things.
Okay,
whether the debate should not be,
Let me...
whether you did it from here or there. The debate should be about the Israeli occupation itself.
Okay, so let me get a response. We're completely... My studio is telling me... Okay, so my studio is telling me I'm completely out of time. I must get the last word in from Eden. It keeps coming... I mean, we can just go round and round in circles. It keeps coming back now to the negotiation. We're in a ceasefire. Fingers crossed so far. It seems to be holding.
Yes, so far the ceasefire is holding.
Ceasefire is holding. And do you think that this is now durable enough to start building from here? Or is it literally being taken now one step at a time?
Yeah, I can't get into the political side. I could refer to the military side. The IDF is prepared to hold its fire. We received a directive to hold its fire.
Right.
If the government gives us another directive, we'll be willing to follow that. At the end of the day, what's epically tragic for us is that again and again, Hamas shows a tragic disregard for Israeli civilians by targeting them, while showing the same disregard for local residents in Gaza, pouring hundreds of tons of concrete into the ground and shooting rockets from those areas.
Last word, Alan. Do you think that the airing of this Hamas video is going to create any kind of pressure on Hamas to change its tactics in Gaza, or as we're already seeing, there's a lot of blowbacks, people saying that you've kind of let the side down, this is a conspiracy against Hamas?
No, I think it could create some pressure, and there is already some pressure on Hamas after this war. I mean, the very high civilian casualties. People yesterday attacked one of the Hamas leaders near a hospital. There have been outcries when dead people are coming in and wounded to the hospitals and cursing of Hamas. I am not able, though, to say whether this is a broad phenomenon or whether it's just because the war is ending and everyone is sad right now. But there is definitely some pressure on Hamas from the population in Gaza.
All right. Thank you very much indeed, all of you, for joining us. We're completely out of time. But clearly, this is an issue that will continue to spark debate and as our story proves, will be claimed by both sides as part of the propaganda war. But on our part, we'll continue to report what we see without any spin or embellishment. And that's what we try to do with this story. That's all the time we have for here. Thanks very much for watching. From all of us here, good night.